Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for listening, and we are talking about motherfucking Star Wars, pardon me, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, which we will be getting plenty of these until about 2024, where we will get one Star Wars film every year until 2024, I believe. So, this is Hunter, and I'm here with Scott. Scott, how you doing, my friend?
So good. I love talking about Star Wars.
Right? And Colin, how you doing, good sir?
May the force be with both of you.
Right.
And with you, sir.
So we have to talk about this. So when we were doing our most anticipated movies last year, I think Scott missed that one, but me and Colin, I believe Civil War is my most anticipated film. I believe this was my second. I remember Rogue One specifically was Colin's most anticipated film. Like, Colin was pumped for Rogue One. Yeah,
it's true, for sure.
So pumped for this movie.
And I have to admit, after I saw that first trailer, like, I was like, God damn! Like, I was like,
yeah, they did a good job with that. It was just like the Inception one, where it's just like loud noises. I like it,
dude. That's exactly what it was. I was sitting there, I was like, holy shit, they are just nailing this. So, we're gonna kind of bounce off each other here for the plot, but
they make it. By the way, they make a great trailer. They really set this movie up nicely.
Yeah, it's starting to get kind of ridiculous how well they're getting with making these trailers. I mean, I'm talking about just Disney in general. It's like, God damn, like. But
so going with the plot, because I heard you kind of mention getting into that.
Yeah.
So do you guys remember in the first Star Wars movie ever, which is technically Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, in that movie, a time where they were like, there was a lot of people that died trying to get these plans so that we could find out the weakness for the Death Star. Do you remember that?
Yes, and
I do remember. They're all with the lady in the white robe, and then around the circle thingamajig.
Yeah, so this movie's like, yo, what if we just like made a movie about all those people that found it?
Yeah, and that's
spoiler alert. A lot of them died.
Dude,
spoiler alert.
Pretty much
a lot of them died.
Pretty much all of them died, man. Like,
yeah.
Which is
odd.
But
they spoiled that back in the first movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, we're just gonna kind of jump in here. So, basically, this starts off with Jyn Erso, who's played by Felicity Jones, which, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her. She was Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3, if memory serves. She was Felicia Hardy. She was in Amazing Spider-Man 2. She was like the secretary at Oscorp. She was in
Theory of Everything. She played opposite of.
She did a great job in Theory of Everything. She was very good in the movie.
She did, actually. So I've been very curious about this actress. I mean, she's really fucking talented, like, honestly.
Yeah.
And I've been kind of just.
But the story starts out before she's even around, right? Like when she was just when she was a young daughter of the person who gets taken away.
Yeah,
right.
Played by one of my fucking heroes. Plays by Mads Mikkelsen, fucking Hannibal himself, aka what's the fucking villain from Casino Royale? I can never remember the villain's name, but you know who I'm talking about. But he's
the guy that plays Galen Erso.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, I just said his name. I thought you knew the name of this villain. God, the wheels are falling off there. But yeah, no, he's Le Chefre, by the way, is the villain from Casino Royale. But he gets kidnapped and by the assholes.
The Imperial.
Exactly. You should just call them the assholes because they're just dicks. But yeah, he's kidnapped by the Imperial Army, and so to build this, to use his expertise, because he's like he's like an engineer, right?
He's like a really talented scientist / engineer, like really high-ranking Imperial officer.
And so I will be the first to admit I am not the Star Wars fan that Scott, you, and Colin, you are. I was always more of a Trek guy myself. But I do know enough about Star Wars to be able to appreciate, Easter eggs and stuff like that. And I will just say, when I first saw the Death Star, I tried so hard not to be that black guy in the theater, but I went, oh shit, like in the middle of the theater, like packed house, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I got excited, but it's a cool moment when you see the Death Star for the first time, and they actually
they do a great job with it. Honestly, like the director, Gareth Edwards. Say what you will about Godzilla, like it had its moments. It obviously didn't really amount to much, but like him taking over this role and really taking over this movie, and I mean that's a huge burden to put on one's shoulders. Like, hey, I'm just going to take over the Star Wars like universe for this side movie. I just kind of like didn't wow a lot of people in Godzilla, but yeah, let's do this. So, I mean. I feel like definitely what you're getting at with the Death Star, I thought he did a really good job with directing people like in awe of the Death Star and really like making like the grandeur, the like just massiveness of it like really come to shape. And it is interesting that it adds that to that storyline of like the history of the Death Star. It's like, did it always have that power? Did it kind of like they kind of tested it out, like increasing the power each time, and they were clearly that's how they say the history of it goes. Is like they were trying it out in smaller doses, and then finally like they blow up a planet in the movie after Rogue One. But I thought the way they really went about the Death Star was awesome. Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Just like overall the way that the imagery of the whole movie, like our biggest memory from watching the original trilogy 4, 5, and 6 was like you're saying, the grandeur of it and like how big everything felt. And I feel like this movie did a great job of like everything. The planet seemed huge, like the Death Star and all of the destroyers, Imperial destroyers, and even when like they're on that one planet trying to send the signal or whatever, all the Imperial the fighters, the X-Wings and stuff like that, it all like felt bigger than life. And that's what I really loved and remember about the original trilogy. It's like, whoa, there's like, Star Wars is crazy. There's so much going on. Like, there's these large, huge worlds. This Death Star is like the size of a planet, and it like feels like that. So they brought all of those and so much more, I'll probably talk about later, from those original movies that I think really made me love it.
One thing I will say about this is visually, is that they made this look like crisp, like as far as like like the TIE fighters and everything looked pretty damn realistic, all things considered, except for one character, which we'll get to. But they made this feel like you could watch this alongside A New Hope and it wouldn't be like jarring. You know what I mean? Like they didn't update the visuals so much that you'd be like, like. So they did,
I agree with that. That's a great point.
So they did a really fucking good, like
even
great job.
Like down to like the uniforms, like like they even like when you watch the first three, you're like, okay, these are a little bit dated, like it's the 70s, early 80s, whatever. But like they kept that same feel, like it's just like the same noises, the same like costumes, like they really made it like seamless.
Yeah, no, very, very true. I mean, so I will say right now, I thought this movie. This might be too early to say this, but I gotta be honest. I was sitting there, and I saw this twice. Like I rarely, I mean, just for the amount of shit that we get up and we see and everything. I don't see movies more than once very often, but I saw this twice, and I gotta admit, man, I was so impressed with this movie just across the board. And so I'm just gonna kind of go down the list here. Donnie Yen, who played God, I'm gonna butcher all the names here. Shuret. He is like maybe my favorite character in the whole movie. He's blind, but he he's almost like Daredevil. I know, Marvel reference, but he is such a badass at hand to hand and just is fucking shooting people and it just,
For sure.
just doesn't give a fuck. But he's like very sympathetic and is very like the way he carries himself. Like, you know, it's very like silent, but hey, I'm gonna let my fighting speak for me, and he clearly loves everyone he's with. And then Diego Luna, who played Cassian, man, you want to talk about he reminded me so much of Oscar Isaac's role in a new
Totally.
in Force Awakens. Just in the way I saw him, I was like, all right, I like you. I was like, just from jump, I like you. And I know this is going to probably get people going, what? But K250, the robot in this, I appreciated the fact that this movie didn't try to make a cute robot. There wasn't any force powers. There wasn't, like, lightsabers. It really felt like they went, hey, how about we make Saving Private Ryan in space? Like, that's all I was sitting there thinking the whole time. I'm like, but you know what I mean? Like, in the way that it was shot very, like, guerrilla style and, in the way...
It felt like a resistance. Like, it's like the rebellion.
I kind of
really
liked
felt
it.
Like that.
I know what you're saying, and I don't know if you're saying it in a negative or a positive way, but I mean, like, I liked the fact that, like, okay, we all know what's kind of going down here, right? Like, it's kind of like this giant, like, suicide war mission. Like, the way that it's shot, that it's, like, kind of like in a, you know, nothing's going to be held in this, like, bright, fun way, and it's like, everybody needs to kind of be aware that everyone's going to die. Like, you know, like, it's in that crazy way, and like I thought that was kind of like cool. If definitely not a normal Star Wars tone, wouldn't you agree?
Sure.
No, and Colin, by the way, I was saying that as a compliment. That's actually one of the things I love like the most about it, and honestly, and totally kind of somewhat unrelated. I don't know if you guys remember this movie, but this movie made me hate Terminator Salvation so much more after I watched this. I was like, God damn it, this is what I wanted from Terminator, and Star Wars totally did everything I wanted from that Terminator Salvation movie. So yeah, fuck you, Terminator Salvation. But and then we get to Felicity Jones, who she doesn't have. I don't know if you guys felt like this. She has some dialogue. She doesn't have a lot of dialogue, I felt like, but her character, this is the second Star Wars film in a row that they've had, you know, a female hero, which, you know, all the extreme assholes were like, what, a woman, like saving the world, this is bullshit. But she does a hell of a job. Like, I was really impressed with her. They show part of the scene in the trailer where, you know, where everyone, like the council, the resistance or the rebellion, pardon me, is like. Resistance Terminator, how the rebellion is like, hey, we're kind of fucked here, so we're not going to do anything. And, you know, she's like, you know, we have hope. Like, rebellions are built on hope. And I was like, God, that good for you. I'm kind of sitting there like, yes, I'll fight with you. Hell yeah. She does a really good job carrying what she needs to carry in this. And her and Mads Mikkelsen, they only have like a scene together, but their chemistry is really good too. And that scene in the rain where it's kind of like you know, where they're supposed to just be spying, and of course, you know, as soon as they say we're just spying, it never ends up like that. But that scene was so well done, it's so well shot, and I think from that, I think the movie's a slow burn up to that point. I think there's a lot of setting up pieces, and you're kind of like, all right, we're you know, we're kind of going. Once it gets that scene in the rain, that the movie just takes off like a rocket, and it just ramps up to what I think is one of the best third acts I've seen in an action movie in years, to be totally honest.
Agreed.
It's such a great ending. Like,
I mean, just
the entire third act.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
And it really, and I say this with a purpose, it really did remind me. I think the way I felt, Colin and Scott, about the airport scene in Civil War, that's how I imagine you guys feeling watching the last 30 minutes of this. Like,
I mean,
so
just
good.
Pure bliss.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, just absolute, just ecstasy on the big screen.
Seriously,
I mean, just beautiful. Couldn't have asked for anything better.
It's like raw, but like they really they mix in the technology with it enough to where it's like it feels like you're like those, what are they, the AT-ATs or whatever?
Yeah.
They're like coming at you, and like if you like all hope is lost, and then like
they do it so good too.
So well, I would argue that they make the Death Star like beam, like the destruction of that Death Star is way better than any of the other movies. Like this, like the way that it just like pinpoint, it like ripples throughout the entire planet. It doesn't like blow it up, but it just makes this big wave. Like
so the way they say it, it's like it's not full strength yet, so it just kind of like totally like destroys like half of a planet instead of just annihilating a whole planet. I'm like, that's way scarier.
So
like,
scary.
Be part of the planet that doesn't just immediately everyone gets obliterated. No one knows what the hell just happened. Like just like watching the ripple effect of like the giant earthquake tsunami coming to like terrorize your whole city. Like that's way scarier.
True.
Yeah.
Like way scarier.
That last scene where Jin and Cassian are like sitting on the beach.
Yeah, by the way, full spoilers by the way. Yeah, I figured you know that. But go ahead, sorry.
Just them sitting on the beach.
None of this is real. We're all
walking. Don't listen to any. We're gonna Men in Black this at the end of this.
there you go.
Just like the emotion as they're kind of going through, as we talked about before, like the idea that like a lot of the characters aren't going to make it to the end, but like they each have their own like proper ending almost, and the way that it leads into A New Hope is just so perfect. Like
it really is.
Can we go full spoiler alert?
Yeah,
let's go. Like real quick.
Let's get in. Go in.
Okay, real spoiler alert. If you want to see this movie and you don't want anything else spoiled, this is the part that you don't want to listen to. Period.
But we all love the movie, so we'll just leave it at that. But go ahead.
But just join up in like 2 minutes. But seriously, okay, fucking. When Darth Vader comes into that spaceship, and just lights up that red lightsaber and starts just slicing fools apart. I mean, I don't even know anymore.
Dude.
I don't even know. I sit there. I literally hadn't read one thing. I hadn't heard one spoiler, and I get in there, and that part happens, and I mean, I'm in like the first night crowd, and there's just a gasp goes through the crowd when that lightsaber is. Everyone's like,
yeah.
And then like all of a sudden, and everyone's like, like you just start going through people, and I was like, what is happening? This is so amazing. I mean, it was. They did a good job, like with the fan service. Let me tell you,
for sure.
Totally. They knew how to do the fan service correctly, so they did a good job on that.
No, I lost my mind. Like again, and honestly, like it made me happy for you guys because I was really sitting there thinking, God, this is how I feel going to a Marvel movie. This has got to be how they're feeling right now. Like, because you're right, when that lightsaber turns on, I was like, oh shit, and it is. How do I put this? So you know those villains that sometimes become so cool just because they're so evil.
Like they become likable.
Yeah, this made me like fear Vader again. I was like, holy shit! Like he just rips.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about just not giving a fuck? He's killing these people in the most vicious, like I was like, oh my.
That's why you got to give this film so much kudos for that, for sure.
Because I was
so scary.
Yeah, I was freaked out. Scott, go ahead.
It just like and to me like that scene where like of A New Hope, the very opening scene of Star Wars essentially is them like the guys of the ship sitting around with their laser guns, just pointing at that the door opening and Vader walks through. It was just like it was so seamless the way that like it brings back memories immediately of that first movie of him walking, the first time you see him, like when he walks through the doors, is so cool. So just like
So
gives
awesome.
you,
I agree.
It's
So
like
awesome.
gives you shivers just like watching it.
You just gave me chills thinking about it. So, yeah, it definitely did a good job.
It's so well done. I mean, and the fighting, it's so good. And Scott, I love the point you made, how everyone who died, and that was a credit to the movie. I'm sitting there, I'm like, maybe they're gonna make it, and I remember I stopped and I went, wait a minute, I know they all die. I know how this story ends, and yet the movie had me so enthralled that I was sitting there, I'm like, maybe there's a chance. And there's this point where I think it's like the detonator to set off these charges, and I believe it's like a Cassian, Diego Luna's character. He like dives to go to this platform and almost falls, and I went shit like out loud. I was like, God, don't fall! And like I was freaking out. And, of course I know that this Death Star gets destroyed, but it had me so wrapped up in the moment, and I had just might have just finished a wine walk, but but it really, I was so just immersed in this world, and the way they there is one glaring thing, if there's
so what did you guys, because there's two CG like appearances, and I would argue that one is like way better than the other.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Even though one of them, they're both CG and they're pretty obviously CG. I think the last one towards the end of the movie was just like, that gave me chills.
I lost my mind.
That was great.
I agree with that.
But then the one that's throughout the movie is not very good. So, but
it was so easy to tell. It was very obvious, but at the same time, it was like, I think it just, to me, it was like them trying like as hard as they could to make it like kind of like that fan service, like where they like wanted to make it like exactly like leading up to the fourth movie.
But I mean, that character
I'd be curious to hear what like the actor would think. He'd be like, like him being dead for like 20 years, like this guy would just being like, oh, I've been dead for 20 years. You're just recreating my image completely in CGI. Right. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, why? And they're like, I don't know, because your family said it was chill. And he's like, oh, all right. Wait, what? And then and he's like, no, but I'm Grand Moff Tarkin. And they're like, yeah, well, that's why we're going to, like, recreate you. I mean, it seems like a weird concept to begin with, why people would, like, spend this much money to recreate him. But then, like, they do, and it definitely is the best CGI of a human ever. Like,
that's
probably,
true.
Right?
That's true. I would agree.
Like, ever. Of a human. But, like, it's still kind of noticeable. I don't know.
Oh, no, it's totally noticeable. But I don't know. For me, and I guess that's how drunk I was. Because I was like, why does he look so shiny? And then I was like, oh, like, maybe 20 minutes.
It's hard to unsee. You know what I mean?
True. I was like, why does he look like why does he look like he has a glow? But, we already said full spoilers, but at the very end of the movie, when you see Carrie Fisher, which unfortunately has a lot more relevance now, unfortunately, seeing her, I was like, it's Leia, like, and I'm sure, like, every nerd has said 1,000 times, she was one of my, I remember the first time I saw Return of the Jedi, and I saw her in that slave bikini, I was like, what's my pee-pee doing? I was like, what's happening? I mean, just a badass to the fucking extreme. The one person who could shut Han Solo up, if that says anything, but,
it was great because like it was just like a split second towards the end, and they didn't like you weren't able to like pick apart it. It was just like her when she was younger, and it was like a perfect. It felt like it was like really her. Like it was they did such a great job.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
they did an amazing job with Leia.
And last thing I'll say before we kind of get to our final thoughts. I know a lot of fans. God, fanboys and fangirls have become so entitled to shit. It's like, why does this Star Wars movie have a crawl? And my whole response was, do you remember what happened with the last prequel that had a crawl? And I had a couple people go like, okay, that's fair. I'm like, yeah, let them do their own fucking thing. And I like the fact it didn't have a crawl. It felt a little more. It's gonna sound kind of backhanded, but it felt a little more serious. That the fact there wasn't a crawl, that just kind of jumped in. And especially,
can I be honest for like 2 seconds?
Go ahead.
When it didn't have a crawl, I was like, what is happening? I feel naked. Like, I don't feel okay. I feel like this is wrong. I feel like this is like not a real thing. But then I got over it real quick. Because, like, it didn't matter anymore. I was like, you know what? I like the evolution of Star Wars. I like the way this is going. And that was actually probably a good decision by them to not do the crawl. So I'm on your side, Hunter.
Yeah, I just thought for the tone the movie was looking to set, I thought that having the crawl probably would have taken away from that, especially heading into that first scene that they had. So I appreciate the fact it didn't have a crawl. But so yeah, I mean, I'm gonna defer to you guys here. I'm gonna go first with my final rating. We're doing our best of list actually in about a month, actually a couple weeks after we do our worst of, and I will say this is not only on my top 10 list, it's just a matter of how high it's going to go. I genuinely love this movie. I really, really enjoyed The Force Awakens, don't get me wrong, but this is like, how do I put this? This is like when I saw the first Star Trek reboot, and I went, holy shit, this is almost as good as Wrath of Khan. Rogue One for me is almost as good as Empire. Like, it's so close. It's not quite
Empire.
Like it's not quite Empire, but it's really, really right there. And Empire for me
is still awesome. Empire for me is still my favorite Star Wars film. Wrath of Khan is still my favorite Star Trek movie. So I mean that just shows the high regard I have for this movie. Felicity Jones is a star. I've been saying she should be getting more roles, and man, did she knock her shit out of the park. So kudos to you, and you know, making another strong female character, which, you know, I know some nerds will be like, I don't want to see women saving the world. Well, get fucking used to it, because it's gonna be happening more, and she does a great job with this. I thought everyone across the board did a good job. If there's a complaint, I would have liked more Mads Mikkelsen. I would have liked more Galen Erso, just because I love Mads Mikkelsen so much, and that was a problem I had with Doctor Strange, too. I just love the guy so much, I want to see more of him. But even that and some of the CG issues aside, this is still a fan-fucking-tastic for me. It's one of the best films they've done in the Star Wars universe. Like I said, I think it's the second best. And I never thought Disney would take a risk like this, to be totally honest. I thought they would nerf the shit out of this. But if Star Wars is going to keep going, we need the films to evolve, and this is a risk they took, and it paid off handsomely. So kudos to everyone involved. Kudos to Gareth Edwards, as you said, who Godzilla wasn't a hit, but this was incredible. So yeah, fan-fucking-tastic for me. Scott, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, just so much expectation going into this movie, and like you can kind of relate with a lot of the Iron Man movies or big Marvel movies or Avenger, Captain America, where there's a part of you that like really doesn't want it to see it fail.
Yeah.
That would just like hurt your soul a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's what I was hoping this wasn't like. And just blew my expectations like out of the water. It was
really
just the way that I think I was just most impressed the way that they were able to replicate the Star Wars world, and the way that down to the costumes, down to the sound, down to like the droids, down, you know, everything was updated enough to where it felt like it was a new movie, but still a throwback, and I really appreciated that they went about it that way. It's just beautiful cinematography. The shots of the planets and the Death Star was just killer. The final battle was just like epic, and I would argue that the that rainy scene on that one island is one of the better fight scenes in that movie. Like, that was just so emotional, and I don't know, it just wrapped it up so nicely. And the way that it finished was just like, it left a smile on my face. It's like, that's the way it should be. And it's hard to do. That's really hard to do, especially for fans. Like, for movies like that, it's a tough thing to do. Just future critiques, I think the only thing that was forced in this movie was K2SO. And
really?
I feel
like
so. Just because, like, they have to have a droid, and I felt like the humor was, like, kind of forced. I felt like they're like, oh, we kind of have to have a droid in here who's, like, witty. It wasn't I didn't hate it, but it just wasn't, it was noticeable to me. It's kind of the same way the CG of Mon Mothma was. I think that, I'm sorry, no, what was his? Draven? Was it Draven?
Yeah, I think so.
The casting was awesome. Riz Ahmed is one of my current favorite actors right now, and he kills it. Yeah, just Vader is just so badass, and like the way that they introduce him is like he's like in this kind of tank, like float tank or whatever. And they even have him like choke some guy out. It's like, oh, that's so badass. Like,
like you have to see Vader choke him out.
Yeah, like he needs to choke somebody out in this movie, and he totally does. And like you're afraid of him, like I used to be. So yeah, fan-fucking-tastic. This is gonna be
high praise.
top 5, probably top 3.
Ooh.
Not to give too many spoilers away. This may be my best movie of the year.
Damn.
Nice.
All right,
Can I ask you guys just an open question real quick? Just what did you think of Forrest Whitaker's character?
It was a good piece.
Yeah, like I think they played him just enough. This is so mean, but I feel like the way they had his makeup and his hair, it just made me draw all my attention to his eyes.
It looked a little crazy. It made him look crazy.
Yeah. Like he kind of looked like Uncle Ruckus from the Boondocks with that eye.
Because he's like an Academy Award like caliber actor, right?
Yeah.
But like he was like, I don't know, something was weird about him in this movie, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
Well, besides missing a leg, but yeah.
No, but just like I don't know, like the way. Yeah. Anyway.
But okay, so did anyone else love? I did. Who I did love, we didn't mention. I'm so sorry we didn't. Is Jimmy Smits, aka Miguel Prada from Dexter, was in here.
That's right.
And he was really good actually. I really like him, and he doesn't age. I don't know how the fuck he does that, but. But yeah, he was really good. Of course, from Sons of Anarchy too. Miguel Prado. Why did I say Miguel? Miguel. I got first name right. But anyways, but Colin, right. Sir, your thoughts?
Okay, so.
No.
Okay. So the way I think about this movie is like, I think the coolest thing about this movie, or at least the most pressure that this movie had upon itself, was like. It was the closest, like, timeline-wise to any movie from the original trilogy of Star Wars, right?
True.
Like, it was happening right before the first movie. So it's like a direct prequel. As opposed to, like, the next closest in the timeline, which would have been, like, Episode 7, which is far in the future from Return of the Jedi, right?
Yeah.
So under that logic, like this had a ton of pressure on it, right? And I think it did a good job. Like I think the best thing that it did, at least as far as fan service went, was that like in that third act that we were talking about, like the ATSTs and the AT-ATs, like everything was like really well done.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree?
No, I...
Totally.
I mean, just technically, I mean, even if the script sucked, which it doesn't, but even if the script was horrible, from a technical aspect, if I was teaching a film class, I'd be like, hey, this is how you do it. Like, this was so well shot, and yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that, but yeah, I thought they did an awesome job with fan service, but they also made the whole movie not cheesy. They kind of made it a little bit darker. Felicity Jones, Hunter, like you mentioned, was a real star in this movie, I thought.
Yeah.
A lot of the other actors did a great job. One of my favorites was Ben Mendelsohn.
Yes.
Who's from Bloodlines and Mississippi Grind, not Mississippi Burning.
Yeah, he said, Colin said it off mic. He was like, yeah. He and Ryan Reynolds were great in Mississippi Burning. I was like, wait, what?
I was like, wait, that would be a totally different movie. I don't think Ryan Reynolds ever did quite that much damage.
Mississippi Burning starring Deadpool. I would totally watch that. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Mississippi Grind with Ryan Reynolds and Ben Mendelsohn. Please watch it. It's amazing. And Bloodline on Netflix, also a good series. But he's awesome in that. The only problem with this movie is that he, most of the time, is bouncing dialogue off of a CGI character voiced by some voice actor. Like,
yeah,
that's a bummer. Like, the fact that, like, one of my favorite actors is, like, that's his main dialogue is with this, like, CGI person, like, in a green suit, whatever, right? Like, knowing that kind of bums me out about my favorite actor, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
Like, that kind of sucks. But I do like what they're going for with bringing back Grand Moff Tarkin. I mean, they didn't do a bad job with it, I have to say. Like, CGI-wise, I was like, that's pretty impressive. Like, if I wasn't actively looking for it, I don't know, I think I probably would have been fooled.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Overall, all those things aside, which those things are just total nitpick dumb shit. Like, Rogue One is awesome. The acting is great. Gareth Edwards, I feel like, really knocked it out of the park after he was very subpar in Godzilla. Like, you could see he could direct in that movie, and then he proved it in Rogue One. Like, we know that we have a good director on our hands. We know that Star Wars is clearly in good hands with Disney. I mean, this is a very, very good movie. Fan service, great dialogue, great movie, start to finish, plot-wise. I mean, it's a fan-fucking-tastic for me.
Oh, thank God. All right.
Ayo.
Dude, when was the last time we all gave something to fan... What, Civil War, I think? Maybe? Or, I don't even remember the last thing we all gave a fan-fucking-tastic to. Maybe, what, Captain America? Maybe? Like, has it been that long?
Yeah, Winter Soldier, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe. That's probably the only other one.
Yeah, that we've all
Which
given...
also find its way into my top 10, I'm sure of it.
Oh, yeah, Civil War will be in my top 10. It will be in my top 5. Let's be honest.
It'll be in a top 10 best of, worst of. You're gonna have to find out.
Oh!
Scott, if that ends up on your worst of, I swear to God, I will lose.
I'm just getting a reaction out of it.
Wow, Scott's gonna do that. My number 7 worst film of the year is Captain America: Civil War. You said I'm kidding.
I snuck one in here. Yeah, I really hated Civil War.
Stay tuned for the potential bomb dropping.
Oh God!
I'll be dropping bombs on everybody.
Oh God! I'll lose
bombs over Baghdad.
But guys, yeah, Rogue One. I believe this comes out. I don't know when it comes out on Blu-ray, but this will be like, I love to buy things on Amazon Instant Video because I'm not patient and I can't wait for things to come out on Blu-ray anymore. But I will be waiting for Rogue One to come out on Blu-ray because I want to see like the behind-the-scenes footage and all that stuff. Because I would love to know, like, from a technical standpoint, how they pulled all this off. So, guys, have you seen Rogue One? If you haven't, you should have by now. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Follow us here on SoundCloud at The Real Pineapple 775. Like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow Mr. Colin on Twitter at
The Real O'Neill. And
follow Mr. Scott on Twitter as well at
Newman the First.
Guys, thank you so much. In the next month or so here, we're going to be on iTunes and we're going to be on Podbean as well. Stay tuned this weekend for my our first Real Pineapple wrestling podcast with my friend James and my friend Annie. We're going to be talking about NXT TakeOver, so that will be very interesting. So guys, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Meow.